we want to welcome writer-directors Tristan and Chad, actors Ethan, Tristan, Shelby. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate you being on. How is it? How are you?
Awesome.
Great. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good. Thank you.
Doing really well. So I have to tell you, I am probably one of the only people outside of the creative forces behind Lil Detectives who have seen the film. Just watched it about an hour and a half ago. Wanted to make sure it was really fresh. Guys, it's incredible. It blew me away. It was beyond my expectation. I tried to go in not being biased because, Chad's a really good friend of the show. Tristan, you're a friend of the show. If I didn't know you guys, and I understand the difference between a short film, a studio film, an independent film, etc., I have to tell you, it's probably one of the best short films I've ever seen in my life. And that's no bullshit. I absolutely...
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I have to agree.
I was blown away just by the camera work, the way it was filmed. The editing was extremely crisp. Loved the graphics behind everything. And the intro. I'll tell you what, that 2006 newscaster, I hope he got paid a lot of money. I really did.
He's a handsome guy. We're going to put him in more stuff in the future.
So he obviously had a face for radio. No, it was unbelievable. So Chad, this was, your brainchild basically with your son. This is something you guys started when? When exactly did the series come about? And I heard a rumor that the first film was actually shot twice.
Yes, that rumor's true. In around, I want to say, 2016, we started doing short films again after taking a very long time off. And Shelby got me a camera. So it was a DV camera, very old camera. But, we filmed a few shorts that were sort of like poetry in motion shorts that we did. And I came up with this idea for Lil Detectives, which is a parody of True Detectives, which was one of my favorite shows at the time. We filmed it in the DV camera because I wanted to look old. I wanted to have a 70s look to it. And, sort of like the old school exploitation type buddy cop films of the 70s. So it made sense to have a real shitty camera. We filmed the whole thing, and actually this is where when we first heard about Chestnut Grove, which is the band that does, we use a lot of their music in the songs or in the movies. So we saw them at a concert, and they blew our minds. And I had their songs like rattling my head forever and ever, and they were really, really good. I mean, they're an absolutely fantastic local band. If you guys, everybody needs to check out Chestnut Grove. What if I use their music? Because it's a local band. We try to do everything local. So we reached out to them on Facebook, and they were totally cool and said, "Hey, sure, absolutely, great. Use whatever you want," which is rare, by the way. And after I edited it all together and used their music, I saw because of the camera, it was kind of a crappy look, and I was kind of embarrassed. I didn't want to show it to them and be like, "Here's what we did with your music." And, them being like, who the hell is this guy with this goofy product? So we totally went and bought a brand new Nikon digital camera, and we shot the entire film. So there's actually two versions of the first film. One is obviously a nicer look to it. So yes, that is absolutely what happened.
Wow. That's a really interesting story. Now, I know most films were shot around the Pottstown area. So how did the location access, how did it shape the series? How was it that you picked Pottstown? What was it that kind of drew you there? How did that setting fit into the story of Lil Detectives?
So Pottstown itself is an old school industrial town, right? The Golden Gate Bridge was built here. There's tons of factories that have since left, abandoned stuff. It kind of lends itself to a real dark 70s, sort of like New York in the 70s, but obviously not as big. So it was always just kind of a cool feel. And then, we have a lot of friends. We have a lot of people that own businesses that let us film there and stuff. This particular film, the fourth one that we just did, was a very difficult time to get location because Tristan's script was very large. We had a ton of different locations. So it took us a very long time to procure a lot of the different places. I don't know, there was 10 different locations. Locally, we found all of the right spots. We actually filmed in a law office that was used as the police station in the first movie. So we sort of bring it all back together with everybody that kind of has helped us. A lot of people won't let you film, and then there's scheduling and all that stuff, and we had to do a lot of stuff on weekends, so a lot of offices are closed. So it was kind of a nightmare, but it kind of worked out. We really got a lot of some really great locations in this film.
Now, Tristan, when you wrote the screenplay, were you automatically thinking of Pottstown? Did you have those locations in mind already, or did it just so happen that it fit the setting of the screenplay?
No, yeah. So I definitely didn't have any real idea of what was going to be filmed where, but I just knew it was going to be in Pottstown somewhere. I knew we had, like, every time we had a police station scene or whatever, I was like, oh, it's the police station from the other movies that we're going to use, or, you know, whatever is going to happen. But I didn't have any real idea of where it was going to be. I just thought, we'll find it eventually, or, you know, find it somehow.
I like that. So I find from a lot of people I talk to in the film industry, filmmakers, actors, a lot of it, you know, is obviously you're prepared, correct? But you can never be prepared for everything because so many things are going to come up. They're going to be like, shit, what's going to happen to me today, right? A lot of it's spontaneity. So it's an interesting thing when I hear that's always consistent with every filmmaker. That's the one thing Chad said, you know, I heard you guys say earlier about how you kind of pay homage to the previous films. One thing I noticed is nostalgia actually runs through the films about a lot of things, whether it's, you know, paying homage to a previous Little Detectives, maybe paying homage to previous cinema. What does that reveal about the characters?
So I think one of the things that, and I believe me, I don't know if this actually comes off on the films, but one of the things that I think is a question whether it's real or not. Right. So you have Little Detectives solving a murder. There's hints of childhood things, you know, toy phones, Fun Dip, things like that. And at the end, they sort of, you know, whether they catch or do whatever they do with the criminal at the end, you're almost wondering if it's just them actually playing. Right. Like they're not actually really detectives and they're just in their playground playing like, you know, I used to. So when I grew up, no lie, this was the 80s. So I would play like Beverly Hills Cop with my friends. Right. We'd be out there trying to be Eddie Murphy and trying to be or Lethal Weapon or Police Academy for crying out loud.
Yeah, we used to play Goonies.
Yeah, Goonies and stuff. So, you know, and this, you know, there's always, at least to me, there's a question here. Is this really what they're doing or are they actually really children detectives? So we have hints of it sort of throughout. The fourth one is a little different just because it definitely has a darker tone, but I feel like that question could still be there.
Huh. That's a really, really interesting answer. I like that. I understand exactly where you're coming from. Tristan, when you were writing the script, the screenplay, you know, one thing that I'm always curious about is, do you start with the ending first and then work your way backwards? Or did you write this straight from the beginning to end?
Okay. So without giving too much away, yeah, I definitely had the ending first for sure. Because I said I wanted to parody a certain movie a certain way. I wanted to be exactly how this would go. And then from there, I started to think of other movies and other ideas to really put into the movie. And then I started to write it. But yeah, the ending was what it was, I think, from what you see is what is all written down from the first time I've ever wrote the script. The ending never.
And you went in knowing that. Do you find that it's easier to write that way? Because I haven't found a writer yet who we've spoken to who actually has a theory. They think they're like, hey, listen, it honestly depends on, you know, what you're creating, you know, how it's easier for you to get there, frankly, to get it on the page and then get it out there, whatever's easiest.
I mean, again, yeah, it depends on what you're writing. Like if you're coming up with a dramatic, like I'm trying to think of a movie that's like very, very dramatic. Like from start to finish, you would have the characters develop. When you start with an ending, the characters are already going through that change that they're going through. That's why it's harder, I think, to write it from the back to the start. Like Memento is a movie that's completely backwards in its writing. That's why I love that movie, because the character already goes through that changes, and then you see the reveal that it's backwards. So writing a script backwards is probably the hardest thing to do, but I don't think there's really you don't have to write a movie from start to finish or a certain way. You can start with the middle if you really wanted to, and then see where you go. It's like, doesn't change for me.
But to your credit, Memento could have been written from start to finish and filmed in the opposite direction. But you definitely started with the ending, and then you forced yourself to find a way to connect the dots through until the end of the third one and that little short that you guys did in between, right? So that's different. You're not, it's not like you wrote it from front to back and then you filmed it creatively. You wrote the very end and then forced yourself to fill in all of the blanks in between, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And do you guys consider it 4.5 now at this point? Now that Dish Best Served Cold is finished, do you consider the series to be 4.5, or is what we murphed from Nerf Wars just make it four movies in the series?
I mean,
does that make sense?
For me, I consider just the fourth movie.
Yeah, just the fourth. Yep. Okay.
I guess what I would consider Nerf Wars is really just a teaser for Dish Best Served Cold. There's kind of that like epilogue where it's like, oh hey, this is what this is, and then now we're going a completely different direction. I don't think that was nowadays it's not its own speed.
Nerf Wars is sort of the Nicolas Cage Superman that just never really happened. So
Okay.
this is the fourth film.
It was a concept trailer.
Yeah, it was a concept. Yep. You know, Tristan took the concept and, you know, took it to a different place, and that's where we're at.
How pleased are you with the script for the fourth one, and how different would it have been if Tristan never had the idea to write one out and you wound up doing it someday? What do you think about that?
I would have never done it someday. So the script itself was fantastic. That's the only real reason why I even said, you know, let's do it. For years, you know, the Little Detectives are older. You know, they got jobs. Ethan got older, got a beard and, you know, girlfriend and whatever. And, you know, Tristan is working and everything. So it never made sense to me to do another Little Detectives. I always thought what made it so good was that everybody thought how damn cute they were, right? It was, hey, the third one happened. We couldn't do the fourth one because of COVID. We started it. You know, a script was written and we're going to, but, you know, COVID happened. We stopped. And I was fine with it. I was like, okay, that's, you know, we have other films that we want to do. Tristan then just surprisingly wrote the script and said, read this, let's do it. And it was so good that I was like, and part of it too, doing these films, it's hard to get people to, you know, all come together. It's very difficult. He had in this one, a lot of people needed to come together. He brought basically everybody back from all three movies. And I said, look, if Ethan is on board,
that's a lot.
Then let's do it. You know, because I mean, Ethan might be just be like, oh, that's just something I did years ago. You know, who cares? And he said he was on board, and away we went. And then right from there, it was like lightning fast to get this thing done. And it went right into production like that night.
That's awesome.
So speaking about production, you know, as you get everybody together, you know, you finally have your sets, which were pretty detailed, by the way. I noticed, I don't want to give anything away, but there's a scene at the end where we'll say, you know, in a prison. I thought that set was phenomenal. One thing I noticed is everything is, you know, pretty novice from an acting standpoint, right? You know, I think we can call everybody who is in this film, for the most part, pretty much an amateur actor. Why use non-professional actors? Why not maybe try to get somebody who maybe has a bit of an acting background and is maybe in school for acting and see if they want to join and be part of an independent film? Why go with all non-professional actors?
It's not without trying. You know, we've tried a few times, you know, talking to people, we're trying to get people, and it's just, sometimes it just doesn't work out. And obviously every film that we do, we always try to look for, hey, is there anybody that actually, you know, is an actor? We've been on Backstage, I think, is the website where you can look for actors and people. But I've always felt that acting is absolutely a craft that not everybody can do, for sure. I've always felt, though, that everybody I know, every single person has some sort of creative thing in them that maybe they're not really doing, whether it be drawing, whether it be music, whether it be acting, whatever. And I kind of love the idea of giving them a chance to do this when I know somewhere in the back of their head, you know, they're watching TV or they're watching something, they're like, you know, I think I could probably do that, or try to at least, right? And sort of give that little, because it is very therapeutic. I mean, I'll have to say, honestly, I don't know how Joe felt about this. This was his first role, basically. And he took it very serious. And I always knew that about him for years, that I was like, you know, the guy could probably do some acting. And it's very therapeutic. It's actually a good thing that you can just do for yourself, whether or not it's professional, whether it's whatever. You know, Shelby's a fantastic actress, but, you know, she isn't a trained actress. And I'm sure compared to somebody who is trained, it's going to look way different. But I know that these sparks in these people's heads, whether they do it or, and love it and want to continue to do it is another thing, right? Ethan is great. Tristan is great. If they never want to do this ever again, fine. But I feel like something in there is like, let's play here. Let's do this little play that we're doing. And I just love kind of offering that. We have Dee, like Dee is in the movie and she sings for Chestnut Grove. On stage, she's a master. I mean, she is absolutely master. And absolutely, I'm like, of course she's going to be a great actress and she's fantastic. And hopefully, she's like, well, shit, maybe this is something else I can do, right? To get that creativity out in some fashion. So, of course, I would love to use real actors. Of course, someday I would love to do a, Kickstarter and start a project with thousands and thousands of dollars so I can pay these people. But,
sure.
Right now, this is what we have. So I kind of feel like, it's the ragtag of somewhat actors.
With what you just mentioned, the budgetary concerns, obviously when making any film, that's pretty much one of your primary concerns, right? You want to make sure you can make it within your budget. One thing I noticed is it actually was a pretty suspenseful film. You were also able to create a pretty nice aspect of violence. How are you able to create both of those in such a low budget scenario?
I think our violence, YouTube videos. Yeah, YouTube videos, basically. But I think in the Little Detectives, right, our violence is sort of silly, kind of. We always have dead bodies. In this one in particular, we did have some blood, but a lot of it isn't even seen too, right? There's sort of the Halloween aspect of it where you don't actually see the violence, but, you sort of imply it. So
absolutely.
I think we do it very tongue in cheek. Or try to, at least.
Now, what about the suspense factor?
Suspense is all in the editing, in my opinion. I think, you sort of just, you have to let some things breathe a little bit, the way things are shot and the way things are edited, which we learned in this film. We're using DaVinci Resolve, which I know nothing about. I had to use YouTube videos to learn how to use it. So I think that's all kind of in the editing, the pacing that we did, and how Tristan sort of wrote the pacing out.
I'll agree with him there because as like his wife, he would make these edits and then he'd be like, oh, I'll show it to you. And then he'll show me like this cut. And he's like, oh, we would talk about it. And then he would go and tweak it. And the tweak would make a world of difference. And it would just be like a lingering look or something minuscule that probably to the average eye, people wouldn't catch. But it makes a world of difference when you just make little 5, 10, 12-second adjustments.
Yeah. And Joe, I don't even know if you've seen the copy that Bobby has. It's been cut dramatically. There's been a lot cut from it. But yeah, and I mean, Shelby absolutely is like sort of the co-editor, I suppose, because she's seen every clip almost just as much as I have doing the editing, right? So it's always, here, let's watch this again. Here, let's watch this again. Here, I have another cut. Let's watch this again. Yeah. So it takes a very long time.
And I think it's important to point out I haven't seen the version that Bobby watched today, but was Bobby watching a version without the score, without the music?
Yes.
So he picked up on a lot of suspense without any music. I think that speaks volumes to what it's going to end up like when it's completely finished.
True. Oh, absolutely.
Back to the Halloween factor. I mean, the score of Halloween, frankly, makes the film.
Yeah. I mean, now maybe the score is going to kill this one and we'll have to go back to the suspenseful no score. But no, I think
well, then you're good without it. You're already good with that.
I'm very confident that the score this time, which we're going with somebody brand new who's, over the years, we've had a few people score Little Detectives movies and a lot of our films who have done fantastic. I mean, they're all really great. But this time, because I knew it was kind of a new thing that Tristan was trying to do with it, we went with Steve Kurtz, a local musician relative to Ethan. Again, we keep it in the family. So we have every faith that he's going to do a fantastic job.